Greetings, 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 greetings. I am King Clifford Jefferson, a Senator of Godfrey, the fifth Caliban Jew, son of folk, ruler of Jerusalem. I am the reincarnation of King Edgar the Peaceful, which we call here at the Third Temple English Church of England, Jesus Christ, or the Anointed. It is May 22nd, 2024, which is the birth year 2974. I greet you in the name of my Queen, Sister Godwinson from the House of Godwinson, Archbishop Belmont from the House of Belmont, Bishop Searchy from the House of Searchy, as well as all those who are trying to get an understanding of what it is that we are called to do. I honor my ancestors who have gone before us, who to pave the way, as well as all those who are here and all those who will come forth from our loins. This is a beautiful day to be with you as always. I could be doing something else, watching TV, but yet I chose to be a benefit to my people by way of continuing bringing home this truth, this information that is vital to your what we call hereafter. Okay, we're gonna pretty much dive in from where we left off yesterday. This is part two. Once again, this is part two. Uh, This is part two of the Garden of Eden, Livery of Seisin, and the Banishment. Part two of the Garden of Eden concerning the Livery of Seisin and the banishment. Okay, it's very important for us to understand the term Livery of Seisin or delivery of possession. All right, Livery of Seisin, which means delivery of possession, which is an estate that was passed down from our ancestors, which is a intel estate, all right, preserved in law by operation of law, all right, which has yet to be re- returned by way of reversion or remandment of that estate that was preserved from time immemorial. Once again, from time immemorial, okay? So we're going to look at the estate from time immemorial. We know when we say time immemorial from an English common law perspective, it goes back to Richard the First. We know when it's used as a legal art term, it goes back to the parcel or the land, estates and land that was given to what we call Native American Indians concerning the five or six civilized tribes, I should say. Okay, the six civilized tribes in what we call North America. All right, so it's very important for y'all to grasp what's being said. All right, tighten down, uh, tie your shoes up, buckle up your bootstraps. This is going to be another marvelous lecture. Okay, it's all about understanding the birthright. Understanding the birthright. We've been through this Wikipedia page several times. Okay, in regards to what it actually means. All right. But once again, I got to continue to go in depth with you because it's imperative that you grasp these concepts. They use these concepts loosely. We must not use it loosely. Okay. We must grasp these concepts and terms in which we're using, and use them, make them, and use them as our disposal. Okay, that's what we're trying to do. Livery of Seisin is an archaic legal conveyancing ceremony formerly practiced in feudal England and other countries following English common law, used to convey holdings and property. The term livery is closely related if not synonymous with delivery used in some jurisdictions in contract law or related to law of deeds. The oldest form of common law provided that a valid conveyance of feudal tenure in land required physical transfer by the transferor, which should be the owner, to the transferee. Transferee, which is the person who's going to possess the grant given by the grantor, i.e., usually is the one who actually owns all the land, okay, and not just an interest in the estate and land. Because if you only have an interest in the state of land, then who owns the land outside of that interest in the estate that you claim? Okay, so usually the transferor is the one who actually owns the land, who transferred to the transferee by way of transferee, which means there's a witness to validate the conveyance of the land. Okay, and it says the term livery is closely related, if not synonymous, with the delivery used in some jurisdictions and contract law or related to law of deeds. All right. The oldest form of common law provided that a valid conveyance of a feudal tenure in land required physical transfer by the transferor to the transferee in the presence of the witness of a piece of the ground itself, in the literal sense of a hand-to-hand passing of an amount of soil, a twig, key to a building, or that land or other token. Usually how we see it today is by a key to a building, okay? All right? By a key to a building, all right? And other forms of conveyances under the archaic way, it was based off the latter in the previous one from taking the key to a building. Okay. Two varieties of way of that conveyance. Livery of Seisin could refer to either livery of deed, whereby the parties meet together on the land and transfer symbolically deliberate possessions of the land by handing over a twig or a clump of earth to the recipient. Livery in law, whereby the parties went within the site of the land and the transfer declared to the recipient the possession was being given, followed by the recipient entering onto the land. The symbol of livery for the house was the door ring or hasp for mills, the clap and hopper for a church, a psalms book and key, and so on. Okay, so these are the types and forms of symbolism in regard to the conveyance of property under the archaic ceremonial way of conveying property from a transferor to a transferee or a grant or from the grantor to a grantee. Okay. The twig and turf ceremony dates from the feudal era, but was used regularly in earlier colonial America, allowing the English, Scottish, after 1707 treaty term termed the British, okay, by virtue of their minor claims to take sovereign possession over unclaimed lands. The process has taken several forms over the century. So the turf and twig ceremony was an ancient archaic practice that actually originated with Atherton, the grandson of William the Conqueror. Okay. But now it's been used in the colonial settlements here in North America after the 1707 term, the British alliance between England, Ireland, and then Scotland in 1801, if I'm not mistaken. Bernard Hodges, in A History of Malmesbury, describes the process in at least Wiltshire. This continued in the late century as follows. Out the window. Out the window. The lucky commoner goes to his given acre and cuts a turf from the selected site and drops 2 shillings and the whole made. The high steward of the county then twitches him with a twig and sticks the twig in the turf. Then he hands it to him, saying, "This turf and twig I give to thee, as free as Atherton gave to me. I hope a loving brother thou will be." The high steward then takes the money out of the hole, and the new landowner replaces the turf. Hold on. Okay. So as we can see, as the two forms that, or the two methods that use between livery of law and livery of deed, they chose to do the livery of deed instead of the livery of law, going inside of the declared territory that was supposed to be granted from the transferor or the grantor to the grantee, which is the transferee. All right, they chose to use the twig and turf ceremony by way of a deed, which we see is there's a marker in lieu of the ceremonial practice that William Penn used. Okay, it says the landing place of William Penn near his October 27, 1682. William Penn first stepped on the American soil. He proceeded to the fort and performed Livery of Seisin. He took the key thereof, blase, blase, blase. We did deliver unto him a turf with a twig upon it, a porringer with river waters, and a soil and part of ball. Historic marker commissioned in 1982. Okay, in 1982. So he left out some of the ceremonial language in regards to the ancient archaic ceremony in lieu of conveying land that goes back to Asherton, grandson of Alfred the Great. Okay, why did William Penn use that method? Why did he use that method? Inquisition post-mortem and livery of Seisin. Went over this already, but we have to go through it again. Inquisition post-mortem and livery of Seisin is another word or term for an escheated. Escheated is a result of intestate, when there are no heirs. When there are no heirs, then it escheats back to the crown or the king. Okay? If there are no heirs, it escheats back to the crown or the king. They call it inquisition post-mortem, a library of Seisin as a result of no candidate or no claimant meeting the requirement in lieu of the library of Seisin, which we're reading in its entirety. Under the feudal system, all land belongs to the monarch and was therefore either held by him directly, i.e., allotted, the royal damsel, or on behalf directly or indirectly. Okay, and indirectly means that it's based upon the tenant of chief, which they call a landlord. Those who held land directly on the king's behalf were known as tenant in chief, as I just said. When a tenant in chief died without an heir, his land is ceded, okay, to fall into the hands of the king by way of what we call escheatment, okay, escheatment or inquisition post-mortem. If there was an heir, the king kept the land until a library of Seisin or the transfer of the property was able to take place. And usually that's what by way of what we call library of law instead of library of deed. Okay. The heir paid a sum of money, a relief to take lawful assumed possession of the land. Okay. If the heir was under the age, the king kept the land until he and she came of age. at the 21st, at 21 for men and 14 for women. And the king received rights of wardship and marriage, collecting the revenues of the estate and disposed of the heir in marriage. He was able to sell these rights to a third party who was not necessarily the ward's next of kin. These feudal tenures and rights were abolished in the interregnum, reintroduced and then abolished in the following period of government at the reign of Charles II from 1660 to 1685. It's very important to understand this process from where it originated, going back to Ashton, and we know that when we get to the second 100-year wars, when you're dealing with the Glorious Revolution, the claim of right, and the Bill of Rights to enforce that claim of right, that goes into the reign of the Stuarts and the House of Tudors relationship by way of the Treaty of Union in 1502 between Henry VII and King James IV. Okay, but the key uh, uh, argument here is the process of Livery of Seisin, which was abolished in Charles II in 1660. Okay, Livery of Seisin was abolished by Charles II in 1660 because in 1660 you had the Feudal Tenure Abolition Act, which abolished feudal tenure estates. Okay, which automatically qualified that the land is allotted. Okay, whether it was under a Commonwealth or whether it was what you call a republic, or if it was under the transfer to the next king, which was king in parliament, operating under the royal prerogative of the king. Okay, so it's very important to understand that Charles II abolished Livery of Seisin. King Charles II abolished Livery of Seisin, and then created the Statutes of Frauds in 1677, which required all contract, because the Livery of Seisin is a contract, all right, to be in writing and be recorded at the county recorder of deeds. Okay. All right. The county recorder of deeds. That's when the recorder of deeds office was created. Okay. Okay. Which is one of the 5 ways of confirming a recordation of a title. Okay. By the clerk of the county clerk. Okay. It can be a surrogate county clerk. It can be a notary public. It can be a attorney at law. It can be a broke. It can be a what we call title insurance company, or it can be a real estate attorney. Okay, these are the 5 ways that recordation of a title can be validated by those who have that authority to validate conveyance by way of acting as a third party, which is a witness. Okay, a witness. All right, you need a witness. Okay. See also earth and water on the Scottish feudal equivalent, Seisin and then Seisin. Okay. William Penn used this ceremony to claim the territory of what we call Pennsylvania, which is going to be uh, uh, the review today about the territory called Pennsylvania. The territory called Pennsylvania was the territory that had counties in it called York and Lancaster County. York and Lancaster County. We know York and Lancaster County were named after the names that were given to the York and Lancaster branch of the Plantagenet Crown of England. Okay. Now, why are these areas called York and Lancaster relative to territory claimed by William Penn when he himself immigrated and migrated here to this territory, which we know is all under what we call the Anglo-Sphere. Okay, the Anglo-Sphere, and we know the Anglo-Sphere existed here before Great Britain. It exists before New Spain. It exists before New France, because New Spain and New France, which were colonies governed under the Kingdom of England and the Kingdom of France, were over on what we call the European continent. Okay, it's very important. But yet the Anglo-Sphere does not involve the European continent, as well as we see the English overseas possession goes all the way back to 927, which was the reigning monarch at that particular time was Atherton, who was an Anglo-Saxon Berber king, not an English king, but an Anglo-Saxon Berber king, because the English king didn't come into England till William the Conqueror, who were accompanied by Jews or Ashkenazi Jews or the Scottish Jews, who Charles II is definitely a descendant of. Okay. All right. So let's go to Pennsylvania. That's our focal point. Pennsylvania. All right. Pennsylvania. We want to read about the indigenous settlements of Pennsylvania. The indigenous settlements of Pennsylvania. You know, Pennsylvania was founded by William Penn based off the Livery of Seisin ceremony, which is the Livery of Deed, not Livery of Law. Okay? Because when you trace Livery of Law, that goes back to Adam and Eve's story as told in the Bible. Okay? When God promised Adam and Eve a season or a possession of land from he who was the grantor or the transferor. Okay? He was the transferor or grantor. All right? He the one who conveyed the land. All right? He was the one who witnessed it because now, or actuality, the only way you need a witness if the original owner is not there. Okay? Because the witnesses are nothing more than a stakeholder, a third party who has the right to interplead in case a question in regard to proof of who the actual holder of in lieu of the what we call legal interest based upon the conveyance are. That's why he's called in to interplead, but it does not prove he is the owner. Okay, it does not prove that he is in fact the owner. So we know indigenous settlement is settlements of indigenous people over here in what we call Pennsylvania. All right, indigenous settlement. We know indigenous means is native to the land, but they said settlement. Okay, settlement. If you're indigenous, then there's no need for you to settle because you were already here. Okay. So we have to understand what's going on. If we look at the official languages in the Anglophone, it's 90.15%, 90.15% English, then Spanish, then including German, Pennsylvania, Chinese, and Italian. Okay. We see it right there. All right. And we're dealing with the era of the indigenous settlement. All right. Pennsylvania history of human habitation extends to thousands of years before the foundation of the colonial province of Pennsylvania in 1681. When we go to the colonial government, we know that prior to the settlement of Pennsylvania, you had New Spain and New France here. Okay, we had New Spain and New France here. All right, and they originated from the Anglo and Spanish wars and the Anglo and French wars before you even had Anglo and British wars. Okay, you must understand that. Archaeologists believe the first settlement of America occurred at least 15,000 years ago during the last glacial period, though it is unclear when humans first entered the area now known as Pennsylvania. Right? There are also uncertainty regarding the date when ancestors of Native Americans crossed the two continents, arriving in North America, possibly ranging between 30,000 to 10,500 years ago. Okay? There also is uncertainty regarding the date when the ancestors of Native Americans crossed the two continents. Crossed the two continents. You hear that? Arriving in North America. possibly ranging between 30,000 and 10,500 years ago. Meadowcroft Rock Shelter, Meadowcroft Rock Shelter in Jefferson Township includes the earliest known signs of human activity in Pennsylvania and perhaps all of North America, including the remains of a civilization that existed over 10,000 years ago and possibly predates the Clovis culture. Did y'all hear that? I need y'all to really grasp what that said. Predate the Clovis culture. Okay? Pennsylvania on the eve of colonization. You hear that? I'm gonna pull that up later on because I know that's gonna be interesting, especially based upon what I'm going to talk about. So we're dealing with, as they said, including the remains of civilization that existed over 10,000 years ago and possibly predates the Clovis culture. All right, predates the Clovis culture by thousands, by 1,000 Christian CE. In contrast to the nomadic hunter-gatherer ancestors, the native population of Pennsylvania had developed agriculture techniques and a mixed food economy. Okay. By the time of European colonization of America began, at least two major Native American tribes inhabited Pennsylvania. The first, the Lenape, spoken and Algonquian language, and inhabited the eastern region of the state, then known as the Lenape-Hoking. Lenape-Hoking, right? It includes most of New Jersey, the Lehigh Valley, and Delaware Valley regions of eastern southern Pennsylvania. The Lenape territory ended somewhere between the Delaware River and east of the Susquehanna River in central Pennsylvania. The Susquehannock, who spoke an Iroquoian language, were based in western Pennsylvania from New York State and the north to West Virginia, and the southwest that included the Susquehanna River to the Allegheny and the Monongahela River near present-day Pittsburgh. European diseases and constant warfare with the several neighbors and groups of Europeans weakened these tribes, and they were grossly outpaced financially as the Hurons and Iroquois blocked them from proceeding west onto Ohio during the Beavers' Wars. As they lost numbers and lands, they abandoned much of their western territory and moved closer to Susquehanna River. And the Iroquois and Mohawk tribe located more to the north. Northwest of the Allegheny River was the Iroquoian Petun. They were fragmented into three groups during the Beaver War. The Petun of New York, the Wyandotte of Ohio, if I'm pronouncing it wrong, please forgive me, the Teon Titicaca of the Kanawha River in southern West Virginia. South of the Allegheny River was a nation known as the Kalikaua. They may have been the same as the Monongahela culture. And little is known about them except that they were probably a Sihonian culture. The archaeologist sites from the time of this region are scarce. Okay, so let's go back to where we start off in regards to the natives here in Pennsylvania. All right, and what did it say specifically? There's an uncertainty regarding the date when the ancestors of Native Americans, all right, of Native Americans crossed to two continents, arriving in North America. So that's an migration, okay? That's the diaspora. We must understand. Ranged between 30,000 to 10,500 years ago. Meadowcroft Rock Shelter in Jefferson Township. When you say Jefferson Township, we're talking about Thomas Jefferson, okay? And Washington County, we're talking about George Washington, because their first congressional meeting was in what we call York, Pennsylvania, okay? York, Pennsylvania. We're going to prove it and qualify. So Meadowcroft Rock Shelter in Jefferson Township, including the earliest known signs of human activity in Pennsylvania, and perhaps all of North America, included the remains of a civilization that existed over 10,000 years ago and possibly predates the Clovis culture. So it said it predates the Clovis culture, okay? Indigenous people who did not settle here was already here before those indigenous people who settled here from the two continents over here to North America, all right, and now inhabit these territories, which you now call Native Americans, okay? The six civilized tribes, okay? We need to qualify this, all right? We need to qualify this, all right? Because 95% of the language is English in the Anglophone, and we know this is the Anglosphere, which is based upon the English overseas possession. We know that the stories dealing with the Anglo overseas possession goes back to 927 AD. We're well up in the 18th century dealing with somebody who's trying to classify as the indigenous people who came and settled here in what this territory now called North America, which is nothing more than a fraudulent story. Okay? It's a fraudulent story. Let's prove how. So, in regards to Pennsylvania, we just read the history on Pennsylvania going back to pre-Clovis culture, all right? Pre-Clovis culture, all right? We know that based upon the evidence every proof in regards to the conveyance of land that William Penn received as a land grant from Charles II, all right, he did based off the Livery of Seisin ceremony that goes back to Ashton, okay, the grandson of Alfred the Great, okay? And we said that there was a people here in Pennsylvania territory that goes back pre-Clovis culture, okay? Pre-Clovis culture, all right? If it's pre-Clovis culture, then who are these people that go back pre-Clovis culture? And we know that Clovis culture had to deal with the artifacts found here in the territory. But it says that the um, Meadowcroft found in Jefferson Township predated the Clovis culture. All right. And we know, based upon our understanding of Clovis, Clovis was the founder of the Carolingian and Merovingian dynasty over on the continent of what we call Europe, okay, which had a conflict with the Plantagenet crown, okay? They had a conflict with the Plantagenet crown based off the stories that were preserved in English history, okay? But we're arguing and we're talking about the territory called Pennsylvania, which has the existence of people here that predates the Clovis culture. And we know the Clovis culture were those who immigrated from the two continents to North America, as we just read pre-scripted on this Wikipedia page. Okay? We know before you have Pennsylvania, it was called the province of Pennsylvania. Okay? We must understand that. But we're still dealing with how Pennsylvania became called Pennsylvania, which is by way of William Penn through the Livery of Seisin ceremony that goes back to Ashton, okay? Goes back to Ashton, all right? And predated by Ashton, okay? Because Ashton had ancestors who preceded him. The kingdom of Mercia, the kingdom of Kent, all these were all families, okay? We were all family. Trying to protect ourselves against the Roman Catholic influence that was created under the Roman Catholic Church with the influence of Christianity, which is the history that were adopted by the English kings when William the Conqueror came in to England and started mixing and amalgamating and tarting what was already preserved from what we call time immemorial. Key word, time immemorial. Okay? So let's look at Clovis. Name. Name. Because it said people lived in Philadelphia pre-Clovis. All right? Pre-Clovis. We know that um, the twig and turf ceremony that was given to William Penn based off the charter by Charles II was based upon Atherton's ceremony, which he founded. Okay, they founded that ceremony. Okay, we must understand that. All right. So we see here Clovis, history, family, crest, and coats of arms. The surname Clovis was first found in Berkshire. Okay, where they held their family seat as lords of the manor. After the Battle of Hastings in 1066, William, Duke of Normandy, William the Conqueror, had prevailed over King Harold, granted most of Britain to his many victorious barons. Okay? It was not uncommon to find a baron or bishop with 60 more lordships scattered throughout the country. Okay? So I repeat, on family crest and coats of arms, you see the crest, it says, all is in God. Okay? All is in God. It says the surname Clovis was first found in Berkshire, where they held a family seat as lords of the manor after the Battle of Hastings in 1066. William, Duke of Normandy, having prevailed over Harold, King Harold, granted most of Britain to his many victorious barons. Okay? Key point. William the Conqueror prevailed over King Harold. Okay? Let's go to the English overseas possessions. Because the word Clovis was found in Berkshire, right? Berkshire. Origin. The Kingdom of England is generally dated from the rule of Ashton from 927. That's where the twig and turf ceremony comes from, which William Penn used to claim Pennsylvania. Okay? And Pennsylvania was inhabited by people who existed pre-Clovis culture. Okay? The word Clovis, as we've seen on the house of name, comes from Berkshire. Okay? And Berkshire, um, as it said, was conquered by William the Conqueror in 1066. Okay? That's what it said. So we're reading the King of England, dealing with the English overseas possession here in North America, particularly what we call Pennsylvania, all right? Because we know when we're dealing with Clovis culture, there was a pre-Clovis culture and what we call Pennsylvania, pre-Clovis culture. There was a culture here before the Clovis culture got here. That's why I said pre-Clovis culture. Our culture is sister here, and then we're not talking about those Native American, those indigenous people who migrated here from the two continents here to North America. They're talking about somebody who's already here. Okay, already here. So we see that the word Clovis culture, the name Clovis comes from Berkshire, and it said that William the Conqueror conquered or had war with what they said Harold. Okay, he had war with Harold, and we know that the territory that William conquered were made part of the crown land under the and government under the English throne, as we see here. Okay, so who is the house of Ninglinga? That's Harold Bluetooth. Okay, the Danish house of Ninglinga, English house of Canute the Great, the Canute descendants. They're talking about Canute the Great. Was a ruling house in the Middle Age, Scandinavia, and England. And most famous king was Newt the Great. He gave his name to the dynasty. Other notable members were Newt father, Swing Fork Bear, grandfather, Harold Bluetooth, and son Har Canute, and Harold Harfoot, and Sweem Newson. It has been also called the House of Canute, the House of Denmark, the House of Gorn, the House of Jelling Dynasty. We already went through this again already, so I'm just reiterating, refreshing. Okay, so as we go back to the Clovis surname, which was found in where? England, on the land of the Angle. It says that after the Battle of Hastings, which concerns King Harold Bluetooth, all right, William the Conqueror, having prevailed over Harold granted most of Britain to his many victorious barons as part of the English throne and being affiliated with what we call crown land. We just read it, crown land. So we see where the word Clovis come from, okay? The Clovis is the name found in Berkshire. That's mighty strange. When we go back to Pennsylvania, there was the people living in Pennsylvania pre-Clovis culture, okay? Let's go back there. Going real slow. Here. I read this like 3 times already, but I got to read it again. There also is uncertainty regarding the date when the ancestors of Native Americans, okay? Let's just click that right quick to clarify this. Native American. Native American. We use this term loosely. See the languages, right? Look in the box, y'all. Navajo, Central Alaskan, Yupik, Tlingit, Haida, Dakota, Seneca, Lakota, Western Apache, Carrice, Cherokee, Choctaw, Creek, Kiowa, Comanche, Osaga, Zuni, Pawnee, Shawnee, Winnebago, Ojibwe, Creek, Odahan. Okay? Now, I got a problem with that because let me just show y'all something, right? Hmm. This is my grandfather. My grandfather, Leotis Jefferson, right? I apologize for the picture being so sore, but here's a better picture. Bruce Jefferson and Leotis Jefferson. They were both from Mississippi. Okay. My grandfather's uh, father was William Jefferson. All right. And his mother was Ida Ryder. Okay. So this is my grandfather. He looks what you call Native American, okay? But his last name was Jefferson. His last name was Jefferson, and my grandmother's name was Ruth Jefferson. Okay? Yes, I'm honoring you, Grandma and Grandpa. I got you. Right? Native American, native to this land. All right? Native. They didn't look like any of those other tribes. Okay? This is how we should look. All right? If you have a Native American in your ancestry, this is the depictions. All right? Straight lips. Look at my grandma. Straight lips. This was us. All right? Now let's go back to Native Americans. Native Americans don't have English names. A Native American is sometimes called American Indian, First American, or Indigenous American, or indigenous people of the United States, or portions thereof, such as American Indian from the contiguous United States and Alaskan Natives. The United States Census Bureau defined Native American as all people indigenous to the United States and its territories, including Native Hawaiian and other Pacific Islanders, whose data are published separately from American Indians and Alaskan Natives. Okay, separately from American Indians and Alaskan Natives. The U.S. Census tracked data from American Indians and Alaska Natives separately from Native Hawaiians and other Pacific Islanders, who include Samoan Americans, Chamorros. These demographics generally does not include Mesoamerican indigenous people like the Maya. The European colonization of America that began in 1492 resulted in the precipitous decline in size of Native American population because of newly introduced diseases, including weapons, diseases, and biological warfare by European colonizers, war, ethnic cleansing, and enslavement. The numerous historians have called this event a genocide. Did you hear that? A genocide. While white white settlers, as part of a policy of settlers colonization, continued to wage war and perpetuated massacres against Native American people, removed them from their ancestral land, and subject them to one-sided government treaties and discriminatory government policies. Into the 20th century, these later policies focused on forced assimilation. Did you hear that? Forced assimilation. Y'all better listen to what I'm telling you. Y'all better listen to what I'm telling you. Okay? Act two. Still dealing with Pennsylvania. As I said, there are uncertainty regarding the dates when ancestors of Native Americans crossed the two continents, arriving in North America, possibly ranging between 30,000 and 10,500 years ago. Okay, there's your source. Paleo Indian period. Okay, and it goes on to say Meadowcroft, Rock Shelter, and Jefferson Township include the earliest known signs of human activity in Pennsylvania and perhaps all of North America, including the remains of a civilization that existed over 10,000 years, all right, ago and possibly predate the Clovis culture, all right, predate the Clovis culture, all right. So let's go here. Now, the Clovis name comes from Berkshire. Let's just look at another source from Clovis name. Clovis is a modern conventional French and French English from the Old Frankish name and runic alphabet and Latin alphabet equivalent to the most modern forms of Louis, Louis, and Louis. Okay? As we can see, Clovis, related names Louis, Ludovic, Ludovicio, however you pronounce it. You see the names right there. Okay? Etymology. The name is traditionally considered to be composed of two elements deriving from both Proto-Germanic, loud and famous, and to battle to fight, respectively resulting in the traditional practice of translating Clovis' name and meaning famous warrior. Okay? Famous warrior. When you're talking about a famous warrior, you're not talking about the culture. All right? You're talking about an individual, and that goes back to Clovis the first. Okay? Clovis the first. Let's see if we can pull him up. Frankish royalty. Clovis the first king of France, to unite all Frankish tribes under one rule. Okay? Right there. All right? Clovis the first. Clovis the second, Clovis the third, Clovis the fourth. All right? Clovis, Louis of Pius. All right? All these are Frankish kings. All right? Frankish kings were warned with the Anglo-Frankish wars. Did you hear me? The Anglo-Frankish wars, or the Anglo-Franco wars, or the Anglo and French wars. All right? The Anglo-French wars. All right. Let's just hit Clovis first. Clovis was the first king of the Franks to unite all Frankish tribes under one rule, change the form of leadership from a group of petty kings to rule by a single god, and ensuring that the kingship was passed down to his heirs. He is considered to have been the founder of the Merovingian dynasty, which brought forth the Carolingian dynasty, which gave birth to the Capetine dynasty. Was the Merovingian dynasty? The dynasty name medieval Latin Merovingi, sons of Merovic, derived from the unattested Frankish form, akin to the attested Old English Merovingi, with the final ing being a typical Germanic patronymic suffix, contrast to son. The name derives from Salian King Merovec, who is at the center of many legends. Unlike the Anglo-Saxon world genealogy, the Merovingians never claimed descended from a god nor is there evidence to support they were regarded as sacred. So they make a distinction between the Anglo-Saxon, descended from God, and the Merovingians on the Clovis, who are not descendant of God. And all this takes place on the kingdom of Europe. Okay? The kingdom of Europe, who have colonies over here, what we call North America, known as New Spain and New France. Because New France and New Spain is ruled by the kingdom of France and the kingdom of Spain, which is on the same damn continent called the European continent. Okay? There's nothing that you can do to disqualify anything that I'm saying here today. Right? But we understand that there's angels and there's demons. Okay? There's angels and there's demons. Okay? We know that Clovis the First was those demons. The Clovis culture that was created by Clovis the First and his descendants were demons. The angels were not demons. They existed here pre-Clovis culture, and they were descendants of God. Okay? They were descendants of God going back to the what we call the Adam and Eve story. The Adam and Eve story that you have. Your abstract story dealing with Adam and Eve, I'm going to make concrete. Okay? Meadowcroft Rock Show in Jefferson Township in Washington County. We know Jefferson Township was named for Thomas Jefferson, and Washington County was named for George Washington, right? Archaeology, real quick. Fine. Meadowcroft has produced what may be pre-Clovis remains found as deep as 11.5 feet underground. The site also has been yielded many tools, including pottery, bifaces, bifacial fragments, laminar blades, lanceolates, projectile points, and chipping debris. Recoveries of notes also include fluted points, which are a marker of the Paleo-Indian period. Remains of flint from Ohio, jasper from eastern Pennsylvania, marine shells from the Atlantic coast suggest that the people inhabiting the area were mobile and involved in long-distance trade. At least one basin-shaped horse was reused over time. Meadowcroft has also yielded the largest collection of flora and fauna material ever recovered from a location in eastern North America. We know Pennsylvania is a big state. All right. Pennsylvania is a big state. Okay. All right. So we've seen Meadowcroft Rock Shelter, which is a something that was uncovered based off archaeological finds, which predate the Clovis culture. We know Clovis is not just a name denoting to a culture of people, but it's also a name denoting to an individual who was the founder of the people who descended down from from Clovis the First, who came to be known as the Clovis people. And I'm pretty sure that these were those Native American Indians who immigrated and migrated here to North America, because before Clovis got here, there was people already here, okay, that looked like Native Americans prior to those you see as the six civilized tribes, okay? Because my grandfather looks Native American, for the lack of a better term, but his last name was Jefferson, okay? So he had an identity that was not Native American, okay? He had an identity, and the dispute is Meadowcroft Rock Shed was found in Jefferson Township, and Jefferson Township was named after Thomas Jefferson, and Thomas Jefferson was not a indigenous person here. He was considered to be an immigrant who migrated here, what they call the Great Wagon Road, all right, in Pennsylvania, I might add. Okay, so these are indisputable facts, right? Let's go here. Jefferson Township. Look at all the townships named Jefferson Township in Pennsylvania. 9 of them. There's 9 townships called Jefferson Township and the state or that they now call Pennsylvania, which was claimed based off the Twig and Turf ceremony that was given to William Penn by the lawyers of William Penn, okay, who didn't have the right to convey land because they were brokers, okay? They were real estate brokers and practicing common recovery by changing intel estate to fee simple, all right? We must understand that. Why do I say that? Because here, we got 9 townships that named after Thomas Jefferson, but they situated in what they call counties. One county is named after Thomas Jefferson. You got Somerset County, Mercer County, named after England. You got Lackawanna, named after river. Green, named after something, individual. Let's see. I'm not going to go through that. You can do it at your own time. But as we can see, you see 9 townships named after Thomas Jefferson. Okay. All these territories, townships named after Thomas Jefferson involved the Native American Indian, all right, known as the Iroquois tribe, based off what we call the Shamokin village. Okay, let's look at that. The Shamokin village. We know the word Clovis is also called Lewis. The word Clovis or the name Clovis is also named for Lewis. Okay, and Lewis was named after Lewisburg, which is where the Native Americans were situated. Okay, over here. Let's go here. West Branch. No, let's go. Shamokin Village. Shamokin. Shamokin was a multi-ethnic Native American trading village on the Susquehanna River, located partially within the limits of the modern city of Sunbury in Shamokin Dam, Pennsylvania. It should not be confused with the present-day Shamokin, Pennsylvania, located to the east. The village was the focus of missionary efforts and then was a staging area for raids on English settlements in Pennsylvania during the French and Indian War. It was burned and abandoned by Lenape in May 1756. A few months later, Fort Orchestra was constructed on the site of the village. Committee is also sometimes referred to by the Iroquois name Oskanatsan. Hear that? Oskin. All right. That sounds pretty much like Oskanatsan. Okay. Oskanatsan. Okay. Which was, according to Count Zinteroff, the name the Iroquois gave to a large cave and a rocky hill in the wilderness. From it, the surrounding country in the west branch of the Susquehanna are called Oskanatsan, i.e., the demon's den. For here the evil spirits say the Indians have their seat and hold their revels. You hear that? So community is also sometimes referred to by the Iroquois name as Oskanatsan, which was according to Count Zinzendorf, who is Count Zinzendorf. German, all right? I'm pretty sure it was a German joke. Count Zinzendorf, the name the Iroquois gave to a large cave and a rocky hill in the wilderness. From it, the surrounding country in the west branch of Susquehanna are called Oskanashan, i.e., the demon's den. From here, the evil spirits say the Indians have their seat and hold their revels. So that means that the Indians are in this den holding their revels, which means that they are the demons in that den. Okay, that's the only sense I can make out of it. Okay, and their present name was called Sunbury, Pennsylvania. Okay, Sunbury, Pennsylvania. Did everybody hear that? Sunbury, Pennsylvania. Let's go here. West Branch, Susquehanna. West Bank, Susquehanna River, right? West Bank, Susquehanna River. Remember that name, Oscar Knudsen, how they pronounce it, which sounds similar to Oscar Nazi, and they ain't given to the Jews to the Jewish diaspora immigrated to England and then Scotland. Okay, it says here, in the American Revolutionary War, settlements throughout the Susquehanna Valley were attacked by loyalists and Native American allied with the British. After the Wyoming Valley Battle and Massacre in the summer of 1778, near what is now called Wilkes-Barre, and smaller local the attacks, the big runaway occurred throughout the West Bank Susquehanna Valley. Settlers fled, feared in actual attacks by the British and their allies. Home and fields were abandoned with livestock driven alone, and their field possessions floated on the rafts on the river east of Moosie, then further south of Sunbury. The abandoned property was burnt by the attackers. Some settlers soon turned only to flee again in the summer of 1789. In a little runaway, the Sullivan expedition helped stabilize the area and encourage resettlement, which continued after the war. In 1790, Timothy Malak, Samuel Maclay, and John Oldham were commissioned by the Supreme Executive Council of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to survey the headwaters of the Susquehanna River and explore a route from the passageway to connect with West Branch with the waters of the Leahy River. Okay? The fair play men were illegal settlers, squatters, who established their own system of self-rule from 1773 to 1785 in the West Branch Susquehanna River Valley of Pennsylvania. Because they settled in territory claimed by Native Americans, they had no recourse to the Pennsylvania colonial government. Accordingly, they established what was known as fair play system, with three elected commissioners who ruled on land claims and other issues for the group. It is remarkably coincidence that the fair play men made their own Declaration of Independence from Britain also on July 4th, 1776, between the Tiadahaton Elm on the banks of the Pine Creek. Did y'all hear that? Did you hear that? We see that West Branch Susquehanna River was settled by what we call fair play men. And they said fair play men were settlers or squatters. Okay? Let's just get a look at that as well. Fair play men. Before we move on. We're talking about the territory called Pennsylvania. And we know Pennsylvania was settled by fair play men, and one of those fair play men was who? William Penn. And he used a ceremony that does not belong to him, because he was not of Anglo-Saxon descendant, nor was he an heir. Because we know that he got his charter from Charles II, okay? And Charles II was ruling from the Scottish monarch, which goes back to what we call the Second 100-Year Wars, dealing with the bunch of wars that started from the Glorious Revolution, which was to establish who would inherit or who would inherit the English throne. Okay, we already read that um, William the Conqueror, all the territory that William the Conqueror, he made part of the English crown. Okay, he made it crown land. William the Conqueror made it crown land. So everything that succeeded after William the Conqueror was considered crown land, will remain crown land. All right. We know when we're dealing with the territory called uh, the English overseas possession, we know that all these goes back to Ashton, and we know that Pennsylvania, if I'm not mistaken, the fifth state to incorporate was a state uh, given by a charter from Charles II. Okay, from Charles II. All right, so we see the fair play men was nothing more than settlers. All right, squatter. All right, and they the one who brought that form of adverse possession over here. They created that. Now they got squatter rights. Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. You know, Clovis is another name for Lewis, right? Clovis is another name for Lewis. Lewisburg. History. Lewisburg was founded in 1785 by Ludwig der, a settler of the area, i.e., squatter, since as early as 1763 and 1769. Der purchased several tracts of land from the William Penn family and other neighboring landowners, the largest of which were known as the Prescott. Having been on the land for such a long time, Der had befriended the local Native Americans of the area. Their relationship with these indigenous people was so well founded that even as many of the other local settlers, homesteads were routinely sacked by Native Americans. Okay, sacked by Native Americans. Their lands remained free from attack. So secretly in 1784, he worked with Samuel Weezer to lay out his combined land tract and created Dernstown. The name was later changed to Lewisburg when Snyder County was created from Union County. Did y'all hear that? Okay. So we know the word Lewis is also a name for Clovis. And we know that Lewis, whether you call it Clovis or Lewis, these are the same descendants because they immigrated through a diaspora to colonize and settle land that don't belong to them. Okay? Let's prove it. Let's prove it. Go back to the Shemokin village. Shemokin or Oskanatsan, historic Native American village. Okay? In the Iroquois language, Oskanatsa means the demon den. Once again, the demon's den. Okay? You got demons and you got angels. All right? Anglosphere was inhabited by angels. Demons migrated over to Anglosphere, right? And then, as we know, this is where the Native American story starts. Because when you go back to what we call where was it at? Pennsylvania. Let's go back here. Back to Pennsylvania. There are uncertainty regarding the date when ancestors of the Native Americans crossed the two continents. The two continents they're talking about is what we call Ireland and Scotland. All right. If they ain't talking about Ireland and Scotland, they're talking about Ireland and Scotland and Great Britain. Okay, Scotland and Great Britain. Those two. All right. Nothing else because they're not considered part of what they call Europe, Africa, and Asia. Okay. So it says there are uncertainty regarding the date when ancestors of the Native Americans crossed the two continents, arriving in what they now call North America. Okay. But it said Meadowcroft Rock Shelter in Jefferson Township included the earliest known human activity in Pennsylvania, perhaps of all the North America. So Pennsylvania, according to the Meadowcroft Rock Shelter that was found in Jefferson Township and Washington County, which were two names named for presidents here in North America who took residence in what we call York, Pennsylvania, to set up shop at under their what they call their government under the 1787 Constitutional Convention, which was formed after the what we call the Articles of Confederation when they were nothing more than colonies. Okay, nothing more than colonies. You know, the first colonies to be established in America, as we see, was Virginia, all right, Pennsylvania, one parts of New Hampshire, Connecticut, Delaware, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. And all those territories were surrendered back to the crown in 1702. Okay? But it said there was a culture that have predated the Clovis culture. And we know the Clovis culture are the descendants of Clovis the First, which were the Merovingians who never declaimed to be descendants of God, like the Anglo-Saxons. And you're talking about the Anglo and Saxons, two distinct people, because Saxons took place on the continent of Europe, and we know that the Anglo belong to the Anglosphere. Okay, that's why we say when you say English, English is used to denote or differentiate themselves from the Saxons. Don't believe me? Just go back to the family crest and go to them. English. The history of the name English begins in the days of the Anglo-Saxon tribe in Britain. It was named for an Englishman, so nicknamed for a person from England. The name English comes from the Old English word English, originally used to describe Angles. You hear that? Angles, as distinct from Saxons. You hear that? As distinct from Saxons. This is got Saxon. The German state Saxony is renowned for both its beauty. Matter of fact, let's pull up in Family Crest. Saxon History Family Crest and Coast of Arms. Two findings, England and Ireland. Okay. The answer to the name Saxon dates back, let me make sure you see this. The answer to the name Saxons date back to the days of the ancient Saxon tribes of Britain. The name is derived from their residence in Saxon, a parish in upper division of the Wapentake, which means the county, of Barstones Ash in West Riding, Yorkshire. The place name was originally derived from Old English Sioux and Tune, collectively named Saxon Village. The parish was recorded in Saxon and the Domesday Book in 1086. Another source postulates the name could have originated in Cambridgeshire. Okay? The surname Saxon was first found in the Grey Regis, where Jordan D. Saxon was listed in Yorkshire. Okay? So there you have the origin of the word Saxon and the origin of the word English. And we see from the family crest and coat of arms, English, i.e., Angles, was created to denote or make the distinction between those who are Saxon. Okay? It's also found in Great Britain. Let's see what they say about this. And when they use Scotland in England, all right, when they use Scotland in England, they say the name English comes from the Old English word English, also used the same way to show a distinction between the Saxons. Okay, a distinction between the Saxons. Let me move from that. All right, so let's go back to what we call and what we're talking about. Pennsylvania. You know, Pennsylvania was inhabited by Native American people here. Because we know when Native Americans were here, i.e., Native American Indians, William Penn made his entry. Okay, William Penn made his entry based off the ceremonial practice of conveying land that was here from time immemorial. All right, in Pennsylvania. Yes, in Pennsylvania. Okay, we must understand that time immemorial process was here pre-Clovis culture. All right, pre-Clovis culture. All right, let's see. You know, the word Oskanatsa means demon of dens. Demon of dens. This is a book. So you got the title. We already discussed West Branch Valley of the Susquehanna. We already discussed the fair play system and the fair play men, right? What's called the fair play men and fair play system, which is based upon settlers, all right, or what they call squatters. So this is a book called The West Branch Valley of the Susquehanna, a history of the West Branch Valley of the Susquehanna, all right, embracing a full account of settlement, trials, and privations, endurance by the first pioneers, full account of the Indian Wars, predatory predatory incursions, abductions, massacres, etc. Okay, Ashkenazim. Okay, everybody see it. Or history of West Branch Valley. We know that Ashkenazim is the Iroquois name for the demon of dens. Demon of dens. Did y'all hear that? Demon of dens. All right. If the Ashkenazim is a name for the Native Americans for the demon of dens where the Native American spirits reveled, this name is also closely etymological with the Ashkenazi Jews. All right. It looks like that. All right. Or history of the West Branch Valley in regards to Pennsylvania. Okay. Because the West Branch Valley of Susquehanna is in Pennsylvania. Okay. Pennsylvania. backtrack again. Okay. Shemerkun village. Demon of Den. Ashkenazin for the demon of dens, which is the Iroquoian language. Okay. We see that. All right. Community is also sometimes referred by the Iroquois name Ashkenazin, which was, according to Count Zinzendorf, the name of the Iroquois gave to a large cave, a rocky hill in the wilderness. From it, the surrounding country and the west branch of the Susquehanna are called Ashkenazin, i.e., the demon den, for here the evil spirits say the Indians have their seat and hold their revels. Okay? Hold their rebels. You must understand what's going on. All right. So now we got a book referring to it. All right. Ashkenazin, history of the West Bank Susquehanna River, confirmed this cave that they call the Demons of Dens. Okay. No, Clovis is also another name for Lewis. Says the indenture. We know this indenture is a contract. Indenture means a contract, an agreement, right? Contract is an indenture, an agreement. Before we do that, let's look. This agreement on indenture involves a deed that goes back to the creation, right? The deed of creation. I didn't say that. This is what this says. Early history of Lewisburg. Valuable facts, religious denominations, history of the university, division of the county, statistics of the Union County, a deed that dates back to the creation of the world, sketch of Flavel Rowan's uh, anecdotes, and anecdotes. All right, once again, a deed that dates back to the creation of the world. All right, this is the Oscar Knudsen or the what we call the Dean of Dens in regards to a territory called the West Bank of Susquehanna River. Okay, the West Bank of the Susquehanna River. All right, we know that William Penn received Pennsylvania by a charter. All right, we know that when we're dealing with the uh what we talked about the what we call the fair play of men. Let's just read that real quick before we. The fair play system by the fair play men. The fair play system, the settlers elected 3 commissioners each March, each March who were responsible that everyone who dealt with fairly, hence the name fair play. Most of their rulings seem to have dealt with property issues, but they dealt with any legal criminal case in their fair play area. They granted permission for new settlers to enter the area, could take away settlers' land claims if they were absent for more than 6 weeks, except for military services, and could expel a person by settling them adrift in a canoe or a river. The commissioners' decisions were final and supposedly were never challenged. In 1776, the 3 commissioners of the fair play were Bratton Caldwell, John Walker, and James Bratton. They are they are the only commissioners whose names are known, and it's conjectured that they were the only 3 for the duration of the fair play system. Did you hear that, y'all? The Pine Creek Declaration of Independence. The American Revolutionary War started on April 1775. Men from the area volunteered to serve in the Continental Army that year. Most of the settlers in the West Bank Susquehanna River Valley were for the Revolution. On July 4, 1776, the Fair Play men met on the west bank of Pine Creek near the mouth of the West Bank Susquehanna River and declared their independence from Britain. The traditional site for the declaration was beneath the Tidewater elm tree, which stood until the 1970s. It was now called Clinton County, Pennsylvania. This was west of the Pine Creek, what is clearly the Native American land. Afterward, the Fair Play men met in their own fort horn near the elm tree and chose to send 2 men with the news to Philadelphia, not knowing that the Second Continental Congress had declared independence there the same day. The 2 messengers, Patrick Gilfin and Michael Quigley Jr., were ambushed and robbed by Native Americans and later jailed by loyalists, but escaped and made it to Philadelphia on July 10th. They returned a short time later to bring word of the United States Declaration of Independence. Okay, once again, we know the Declaration of Independence was a declaration of freedom against the Great Britain monarch system, but it never had anything to do with the ownership of the land or what we call the title of the land. Had nothing to do with it whatsoever. Okay, nothing to do with it whatsoever. Most settlers had already gathered at 5 small forts for safety, but now the fourth and the settlers' home and feasts were abandoned, with livestock driven along the field possessions floated on the river east to what is now Muncie. Then further south to Fort Augusta and what is now called Sunbury. The abandoned property was burnt by the attackers. Some settlers reported fleeing at night when the glow of their burning settlements lighted the sky behind them. Fort Horn and the other Fair Play men's settlements were all destroyed. Okay, they were all destroyed. So we're dealing with the territory called Pennsylvania, known as what we call the West Bank of Susquehanna, which is the territory which inhabit what we call Native American. All right, and they said the Native Americans had a den there called Oskanatsun, which was a den in which they practiced their rebels in regards to um, whatever it is they used to combat the invading immigrants or migrants who migrated to the territory and had to buy those Native Americans. But we know the Native Americans that they once believed are the indigenous people there are not the indigenous people who's supposed to be there. All right, because there's a missing gap in history in regards to the indigenous people there. Because it said that in Pennsylvania there was a pre-Clovis culture there. All right, a pre-Clovis there, which made up a population that was bigger than what it's all in North America. Because when you look at the Clovis culture, it was not only found in Philadelphia, it's found in New Mexico on the other side of the damn continent. Okay, on the other side of the continent. Do that again for all those who didn't catch it. There we go, right back to it. There's also, one second, I'm sorry. There also is uncertainty. Oh, there also is uncertainty regarding the date when the ancestors of Native Americans crossed the two continents. All right. They're talking about the ancestors of the Native Americans who crossed two continents and came over here to North America. Right? Came over here to North America. But yet, in Middlecroft, rock shelter was found in Jefferson Township here in Pennsylvania that predates the Clovis culture. Okay? Predate the Clovis culture. Why is this important? We know Clovis culture is also a name for Lewis. And we know Lewisburg is where the uh the let's see where, yeah, Lewisburg was in is where the indigenous people set up uh which was situated in West Bank of Susquehanna River. Okay, Lewisburg has it right there, as we just said. And it was a tract of land given from William Penn. Okay, from William Penn. And we know how William Penn got the land. All right. So let's go back to this article. So the key point, a deed that dates back to the creation of the world. All right, a deed that dates back to the creation of the world. All right, we know that dealing with the territory called Lewisburg, which is the territory in West Bank of Susquehanna, which was a territory assumed to be colonized by William Penn through the Livery of Seisin ceremony, which we know that ceremonial custom was not or did not belong to him. Why? Because we're going to see it right here in this article right here, in this chapter. All right, we're going to read it right here in this chapter. Concerning the deed that dates back to the creation of the world, that the Clovis culture or Clovis the first and those who descended down from them don't go to, because it said that Clovis, who was the founder of the Merovingian dynasty, who was born with the Anglo-Saxon, never came to be descendants of God like the Anglo-Saxon. Okay? All right. So if you was created by God, then you must go back into the abstract Adam and Eve story and make that story concrete. How can we do that? Let's see. Page 395. Coco, come inside. This is a book written by the Native Americans in that den of thieves, in that demon den. All right? In that demon den. Right? The indenture, the contract. This indenture made the 9th day of October in the year of our Lord, 1793. All right. 1793, between Clara Helena Ellen Huxon of the town of Lewisburg. All right. You know, Lewisburg or Lewisburg is also the same name as Clovisburg. Because Clovisburg, we know Burg means town. Okay. The word Burg means town. So Lewistown or Louistown, right? Burg is another term for town, city, borough. You know what I'm saying? These are alternative terms that you use, all right? And we see that Clara Helena Ellen Houston of the town of Lewisburg in the township of Buffalo in the county of Northumberland and Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, widow of one part of Flower Roan in the town of Sunbury is in the county of Commonwealth of Forster Esquire of the other part. We know that Sunbury is a town originating in England. We know that Northumberland is a town originated in England. Okay, all these names that they're reclassifying now are new, are the old and original names for those that they want to make us believe over in what they call the continent of what we call the territory called Great Britain or United Kingdom now. When those names actually were over here, okay, because there were people here pre-Clovis culture. We know Clovis culture were warm with the Plantagenet crown. So we know the Clovis culture were Frankish kings, and the Frankish kings under the Kingdom of France had territories lying over here in North America. All right, New Spain, as well as the New French, and we know that the territories belonging to Great Britain, those territories were first under jurisdiction under what we call the Plantagenet crown. We're gonna prove it. We're gonna prove it. All right. Let's see. It says, whereas the creator of, we're talking about that deed, go back to the creation of man. Whereas the creator of the earth by parole and Livery of Seisin did enfeoff the parents of mankind, to which Adam and Eve of all that certain tract of land called and known in the planetary system by the name of the earth, together with all and singular the advantages, woods, waters, water coasts, easements, liberties, privileges, and all others than pertinence whatsoever thereunto belonging, or in any wise appertaining to have and to hold to them the said Adam and Eve and their heirs of their bodies lawfully to be begotten, and fetal, general forever, as by the said feastment recorded by Moses. Did y'all hear this? Are y'all hearing this? They talking about Anglo-Saxon term, entail, which is fetal, all right? They're using these terms, y'all. They saying Adam and Eve has a estate that was fetal, all right? They had a state that was fetal. Let's read it again. We're talking about in Pennsylvania, under the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. They're making a claim in Pennsylvania, under the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, going back to the creator of the earth and his descendants, Adam and Eve, based off the Livery of Seisin. You see it right there. Livery of Seisin. All right. Now, this book is called Oskanatson, or what they call the west bank of what they call Susquehanna River. We know the west bank of Susquehanna River took place in what we call Lewisburg. And Lewisburg, you know, Burg means city. We know Lewis is another corruption for the word Clovis. All right. So it should be the city of Clovis. All right. And the city of Clovis was the city established by those who immigrated to that particular territory, which was their pre-Clovis culture. Okay, pre-Clovis culture. All right, we must understand that. Why? Because they're telling us right here. Going back to Adam and Eve. Okay, concerning a deed. All right. Whereas the creator of the earth by parole and Livery of Seisin. Let's go back to Livery of Seisin. Now, based upon what we're hearing, that conveyance of land was based off this Livery of law, whereby the parties went within sight of the land and in transfer declared to the recipient that the possession was being given, followed by the recipient entering into the land. This was God told Adam and Eve. Contrast to this form, Livery of deed, all right, whereby parties go together on the land and transfer it symbolically by delivering possession of the land by a twig or a clump of earth ceremony. All right, there's only two ways to do this. All right, which way was the right way? All right, we're telling you the way we're doing it is the right way through library of law and not library of deed, because deed is just a form of library of deed and library of Seisin. Okay, library of deed and library of Seisin. All right, we're going to see what we're reading in the as preserved in the Ashkenazin, or what we say the West Bank of what they call the West Bank of Saskatchewan River, based upon those records. They're making reference to a conveyance of territory under what we call Livery of Seisin. Okay, Livery of Seisin, right, and Pennsylvania, right, and Pennsylvania. We know that that particular Library of Seisin was also done by William Penn. All right, by William Penn. But based upon what we're reading, that ceremony goes back to Adam and Eve. Okay, they're associating Adam and Eve with this actual conveyance of land called Library of Seisin. Okay, once again, they're making reference to Adam and Eve, God, in regard to the type of conveyance, all right, that's used by British monarchs uh, after they took it from us, the Anglo-Saxon misnomer as English monarchs. Okay, so we see the turf and twig ceremony date back to the feudal era, but was used regularly in early colonial America, allowing the English, Scottish after 1707 term the British by virtue of their monarchs' claim to take sovereign possession over unclaimed land. So the land wasn't claimed by anyone, so they took it. All right, they didn't have to do any fighting. Okay, and the ceremony of how they took it was based upon a ceremony going back to Ashton, all right, which was the grandson of Alfred the Great, all right? And there was only two ways to do it: library of law and library of deed. Library of law and library of deed, all right? And by virtue of it being library of law, that means they had to follow uh, acquisition post-mortem procedure, which means that someone has to lawfully come of age. All right, come up. Someone has to be consciously raised to the level where he can speak on behalf of the family based upon primogeniture or agnatic succession. As I said here, under the feudal system of all land belongs to the minor and was therefore either held by him directly, the royal damsel, or on behalf directly or indirectly. Okay, we're talking about livery of Seisin. Okay, those who held land directly on the king's behalf were known as tenants in chief. All right. When a tenant in chief died without an heir and land is ceded to the king, meaning it fell into the hands of the king. This will be God. If there was an heir, the king kept the land until livery season took place. The heir paid a sum of money or relief to take take lawfully or assume possession of the land. Okay, to take possession of the land. If the heir was under the age, the king kept the land until he came of age. All right. And the king received right of warships in marriages, collecting the revenue of the estate and disposing of the heir in marriage. He was able to sell the right to the third party, who was not necessarily the ward next of kin. These feudal tenures and rights were abolished in the interim, reintroduced, and then abolished in the following period of government at the reign of Charles II, 1660 to 1685. Okay, so if it was abolished in 1660 and 1665, 1685, then how in the hell they're using the process again here, and as we see in the Oskanatson, or what we call the West Bank of Susquehanna, in regards to this deed going back to creation. Okay, how are they using this process? Let's go back to it. And this apparently is a library of D, not a library of law. All right, library of D. Let's look at it. Let's look at the example again. This indenture made the ninth day of October in the year of our Lord, 1793. So this was well after the abolishment of the Livery of Seisin by Charles II under a rump parliament. Between Clara Helena Ellenhusen of the town of Louisburg, all right? Louisburg, or no matter how you spell it, or Clovisburg, all right? Remember in Superman, what do you call it? What's his name? Clovis? I think his name was Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor. Louisburg or something like that. He wanted to name the city after him, Louisburg. Okay. All right. So we see here the town between Clara Helena Ellenhusen of the town of Louisburg and the township of Buffalo. Okay. And the county of Northumberland. All right. And Commonwealth Pennsylvania widow of one part Flavel Rome of the town of Sunbury and the county of Commonwealth affords the Esquire of other part. Okay. And it talks about the actual type of conveyance. Let's see what it says. Whereas the creator of the earth by parole of in Livery of Seisin did enfeoff the parents of mankind, to which Adam and Eve of all that certain tract of land called and known in the planetary system by the name of the earth, together with all the singular, the advantages, woods, waters, water courses, easements, liberties, privileges, and all others the appurtenances whatsoever thereunto belonging, or in any wise appertaining to have and to hold to them the said Adam and Eve, to their heirs of their bodies, lawfully being begotten in detail, general forever, as by the said feedment recorded by Moses, and the first in where it says, recorded by Moses in the first chapter of the first book of his records, commonly called Genesis. More fully and at large appears on reference being thereunto had. And whereas the said Adam and Eve died, seed of the premises aforesaid in female general, leaving issue, heirs of their bodies, to wit, sons and daughters who entered into the same premises and became thereof seized as tenants in common by virtue of the donation aforesaid, and multiplied their seeds upon the earth. Okay, so as we can see here, the based on what we're reading, that there was a conveyance of Livery of Seisin to Adam and Eve, who were the fifer, meaning that they were the trustees and were supposed to look after the trust that was belonging to them, their heirs and their descendants. Okay, as prescribed by the record by Moses. This is the Mosaic Code. All right, this is the Mosaic Code that King Edgar that Alfred the Great incorporated in what we call the Dome's Law. Okay, what we call the dome, what's called the domes. Dome book. I'm making this up. Dome book. Right? Dome books or Code of Alfred or Legal Code of Alfred the Great was the code of law, dooms being laws or judgments compiled by Alfred the Great. Alfred coded three prior Saxon codes: the Elsterberg of Kent, Enea Wessex, Offa of Mercia, to which he prefixed the Ten Commandments of Moses and incorporated rules of a life from the Mosaic Code and the Christian codes of ethnic. Did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that? Under Mosaic law, okay? Mosaic law. Let's go back to the book. Repeat. Based off the process of Livery of Seisin. Somebody claimed to be descendants of Adam and Eve based off the Livery of Seisin ceremony that was created uh, uh, under the presumption of the abstract conveyance done based off Adam and Eve. We know the concrete conveyance that was done goes back to Ashton, okay? Goes back to Ashton, but we know Ashton controls the English overseas possession here over in the Anglosphere and not Adam and Eve, okay? And not Adam and Eve. But yet we see Adam and Eve being associated with Livery of Seisin or the conveyance of property based off how the example is being given is not Livery of law, but Livery of deed. Livery of deed is when you got uh, a witness to verify it. Livery of law, you don't need no witness. Why? Because the actual you and the owner is right there. And then based upon the agreement right there, you go on to that land as conveyed by the grantee or the contract or the indenture. All right? We must understand this. So as we can see in regards to territory in Pennsylvania, which is the territory of what they call Oskanatson, or what they call the West Bank of Susquehanna, which is the territory going back to Louisburg, which was territory encompassing territories in Pennsylvania, which was territory ceded to William Penn by way of the twig and turf ceremony, which is the Livery of Seisin archaic method of conveying land, which is also mentioned here in a book called Oscar Knotson, or the West Bank of what they call West Bank of Saskatchewan River, Saskatchewan River, part itself, I'm pronouncing it wrong. West Bank of Saskatchewan River. Y'all know what I'm trying to say. All right, but anyhow, it says here, that the creator of the earth by parole and livery of Seisin did in feet, all right, entrusted the parents of mankind, to wit, Adam and Eve, of all that certain tract of land, all that certain tract of land, a land that was preserved from them, all right, that was told that they were going to inhabit it, okay, a land that were going to inhabit, all right, called and known in the planetary system by the name of the earth, all right, the earth, together with all in singular the advantages of woods, waters, watercourses, easements, liberties, privileges, and all others, the appurtenances whatsoever thereto belonging, or in any wise appertaining to have and to hold to them, the said Adam and Eve, and to the heirs of their bodies, lawfully to be begotten in fetail, general forever, as by the said feasment recorded by Moses. Okay? Recorded by Moses. And in the first chapter, parcel, in the first chapter of the book of his record, commonly called Genesis, more fully in that large appears on reference being there to have. And whereas the said Adam and Eve died seized of the premises aforesaid in fetail general, leaving issue, heirs of their bodies, to wit, sons and daughters, who enter into the same premises, and because thereof seized as tenants in common by virtue of the donation aforesaid, to multiply their seed upon the earth. So that means that they died interstate. Okay? When Adam and Eve died, their estate became seeds, seed that was fetail into fee simple. Why? Because it goes on to say, because there are seeds as tenants in common by virtue of the donation, a gift, a grant. All right, a donation is a grant, a gift, or a grant that takes place with what we call alienation. Alienation, to separating the land. Okay, so whereas they said Adam and Eve died, seized of the premises aforesaid that they just talked about in detail in general, leaving it an issue. All right, heirs of their body. Who are the heirs of their body? To wit, sons and daughters who enter into the same premises, means to go, and became thereof seized as tenants, in common by virtue of the donation aforesaid, and multiplied their seed upon the earth. And whereas in process of time, the heirs of the said Adam and Eve, having become numerous and finding it to be inconvenient to remain in common, as aforesaid, bethought themselves to make partition of the land and tenements aforesaid to and utmost themselves, and they did accordingly make such partition. Okay? Once again, I repeat. Whereas in process of time, the heirs of said Adam and Eve, having become very numerous and finding it to be inconvenient to remain in common, as aforesaid, bethought themselves to make partition of the lands and tenements aforesaid to and among themselves, and they did accordingly make such partition. And whereas by virtue of the said partition made by the heirs of said Adam and Eve, all that certain tract of land called and known on the general plan of the said earth by the name of America now. Did you hear that? They went from the earth to America. Once again, they went from the earth to America. All right, let's read it again. Let's read it again. We right over stuff. Right? We see a land conveyance by Clara Helena Ellen Hoopson of the town of Lewisburg and the township of Buffalo in the county of Northumberland of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, widow of one part of Flower of Rome, and who's a lawyer, apparently, Esquire. He's an Esquire, all right? It says it right here, Esquire, and the town of Sunbury, okay? The town of Sunbury is where uh uh the West Bank of Susquehanna, West Bank of Susquehanna is situated, okay? Let's just see. Lewisburg, they talking about Lewisburg. Right? West Bank of Susquehanna, also called Oskanatson, which they Native Americans refer to as a demon's den. Okay, demon's den. Let's go back there before we continue to read. The Shemo King Village. All right, the Shemo King Village. All right, was a multi-ethnic Native American trading village on the Susquehanna River, located partly within the limits of the modern cities of Sunburn. All right, Sunbury. The Iroquois language, they called it the demon's den. All right, the demon's den. I'm just reiterating, going back over, right, what we already read. And the etymology of the word Ashkenazin, it says the demons for here. It said the demons den for here. The evil spirits say that the Indians have their seat and hold their rebels. Okay, the Indians have their seat and hold their rebels. Okay, that's associated with Wash, what we call the bank of Washa, the bank of West Bank of Sasquatch River. Okay, that's what they call it, right? Which is right here. All right, this is where these tribal Native Americans are situated. Okay, and the county seat is where it says present day Sunbury, Pennsylvania. Sunbury, Pennsylvania. Well, we see a deed being created in the town of Sunbury in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for two people. All right, a lawyer by the name of what's his name, Flaubel Rome, and Clara Helena Ellen Hookson, in the town of Lewisburg, and as well as the township of Buffalo in the county of Northumberland. Okay, and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. But look at the extent of the deed that they were filing in the county record. Okay, at the county record, because we're going to see a book and page number for this said deed. Whereas the creator of the earth, we're talking about the earth, we're not talking about America. We're talking about the earth that they just said. Whereas the creator, whoever this creator is, whereas the creator of the earth by parole and livery of Seisin did enfeoff the parents, all right, of mankind, to wit, Adam and Eve, of all that certain tract of land called and known in the planetary system by the name of the earth, together with all in singular and advantages, woods, waters, watercourses, easements, liberties, privileges, and all other the appurtenances whatsoever done to belonging or in any wise appertaining to have to hold to them the said Adam and Eve and the heirs of their bodies lawfully to be begotten in detail general forever, as by the said statement recorded by Moses in the first chapter of the first book of his record, commonly called the Genesis. More fully and at large appeared on reference being thereunto. Okay? So there you see what Alpha the Great coded in the domes, what it was called, the domes book was the Mosaic code, all right? In regards to Adam and Eve, the fieffer of the fieflement granted by the creator, which could be God, in regard to their heirs and descendants, which is an intel estate, because feet-tail means intel, all right? So we know this must have been governed by the crown, because feet-tail is crown land, all right? And crown land is intel, and it's personified by the mind, okay? So that means that Adam and Eve were tenants in chief, all right? Were tenants in chief. Whereas that said Adam and Eve died, seized of the premises aforesaid in fetail. So that means that their possession that was in fetail was seized in general, leaving issue, heirs of their bodies, to which sons and daughters who enter into the same premises and became thereof seized as tenants in common by virtue of the donation aforesaid and multiplied their seed upon the earth. So that means that Adam and Eve died, and that means that it left the heirs and interstate, and then they became claimed as property. Okay? When they entered to the premises, it became thereof seized as tenants in common by virtue of the donation aforesaid and multiplied by their seed upon the earth under what they call partus sequitur being trim. Okay? Partus sequitur being trim. So all Adam and Eve descended from the abstract story has been sold, put in bondage, okay? Sold and been in bondage, but their fee-tail estate has been preserved. Where and here in what we call America. All right? It's called America. Let's read it. I didn't think I was going to get this revelation from this book. And whereas in process of time, so time has gone by, right? Time has gone by. Whereas in process of time, the heirs of the said Adam and Eve have become very numerous and finding it to be inconvenient to remain in a common, as aforesaid, to remain in the places that you originally was when the original conveyance was made based off Livery of Seisin, based upon the whole earth, okay, which was given to you by the creator, as we just read, that's preserved by the so-called settlers in what we call Pennsylvania, under the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, under what we call what we call the proprietors of Pennsylvania. Okay, the proprietors of Pennsylvania was the William Penn family and his ancestors. Okay, the William Penn descendants and his ancestors, because that's the only way these two could have got it, is by William Penn. Let's look at the primogeniture. The generation of Penns acts as proprietors of the province of Pennsylvania in the lower counties of Delaware from the founding of the colony until the American Revolution. Remove them from power and property. You hear that? From the founding of the colony until the American Revolution, remove them from power and property. William Penn was granted the new proprietary colony in 1681 by Charles II of England in payment for a debt owed to Penn's father. After Penn became ill in 1712, his second wife, Hannah Collihill, Penn served as acting proprietor. Okay, so we see that it said after the American Revolution, William, the property belonging to Penn's uh, 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 was revoked. Okay, it was revoked. So how is Livery of Seisin being recorded in Pennsylvania when we just read William Penn was granted the new proprietary colony in 1681 by Charles II of England, and we know Charles II ended Livery of Seisin as we read on Wikipedia. He stopped Livery of Seisin. Okay, he stopped it how it was supposed to be. So how is these two using the same process? Because it wasn't for them. The process was for the descendants of Adam and Eve for the whole world. But as a result of Adam and Eve, who were the thiefers or the trustees dying, the property has been given or exceeded as a result of a gift, which is what we call alienation. Okay, we know rights cannot be are inalienable. All right, when they become alienable, that means they are taking them from you. Okay, they're taking them from you. Okay, so we know that the proprietor governors started with William Penn. All right, and William Penn got his land by way of Livery of Seisin. Okay, Livery of Seisin. Let's go back to the article again. Again, Adam and Eve, the city was supposed to inherit the whole earth based off fee-tail. All right, not fee simple, fee-tail. It's right here. This is a book of Oscar Knopson, which is the territory dealing with a tribe known as what they call them, the Shamokin village, right? And the Shamokin village is in West Branch, South Carolina. It's situated in the West Bank branch of South Carolina River, okay? Which encompasses these so-called fair play men who established a fair play system, which is based upon settlers or squatters when they colonized North America and a territory called Pennsylvania. All right, but we were already here in Pennsylvania prior to them colonizing here, because we know that they are all aligned with the Frankish kings. We know Frankish kings all descended down from who? Clovis the First. All right, and we were here pre Clovis culture. We were already here. All right. So it said when I'm reading it again. Reading it again. And whereas the said Adam and Eve died, seed of the premises, died, seeds of the premises, took it, aforesaid and feed tail. So when they take e-tail, feed and tail property from you, it becomes fee simple through common recovery. All right? Through common recovery. You see it right here. All right? Leaving issue. So that means that if it turns from fee simple, turn to fee simple from common concept. If it turns from fee tail to fee simple as a result of common recovery, that means that there are no heirs now, and it automatically exceeds. All right, it exceeds. Now it becomes subject to what we call alienation. Okay, which is what is called acquisition post mortem. Okay, acquisition post mortem. All right, so it says that, and whereas the said Adam and Eve died, these are the premises aforesaid in fee tail general, leaving issue, heirs of their bodies, to which sons and daughters who entered into the same premises became thereof seized as tenants, in common by virtue of the donation aforesaid, and multiplied their seed upon the earth. And whereas in process of time going back from time immemorial to the present, whereas in the process of time, the heirs of the said Adam and Eve, having become very numerous, and finding it to be inconvenient to remain in that common place that they originally originated from, as aforesaid, bethought themselves to make partition of the land and tenements aforesaid to and amongst themselves, and they did accordingly make such partition. Okay? And whereas by virtue of the said partition made by the heirs of said Adam and Eve, all that certain tract of land called and known on the general plan of the said earth by the name of America, parcel of the said large tract was allotted and set over unto certain of the heirs aforesaid to them and to their heirs general and fee simple. Did y'all hear that, y'all? Did y'all hear that? Did y'all see that? Did y'all see that? That is straight up crazy. All right? That is straight up crazy. And whereas by virtue of the said partition made by the heirs of said Adam and Eve, all that certain tracts of land called and known on the general plan of the said earth by the name of America, parcel of the said large tract was allotted and set over unto certain of the heirs aforesaid to them and to their heirs, general and fee simple, who entered into the same and became thereof seized as aforesaid, and their demesne as of fee, and people the same allotted land and severalty, and made partition thereof to among their descendants. All right, among their descendants, and whereas afterward now deemed in time immemorial. Did you see that? Now deemed in time immemorial. Let's look at time immemorial. Can't go no further until we look at the term time immemorial. I can care less who ain't watching. My job is to make sure the information is there so you don't have an excuse. Okay? You don't have an excuse. Time immemorial is a phrase meaning time extended beyond the reach of memory, record, tradition, and indefinitely ancient. Ancient beyond the memory or record. The phrase is used legally significant context as well as in common parlance. All right? Very important. In law, time immemorial denotes a period of time beyond which legal memory cannot go. In time out of mind, most frequently the phrase time immemorial appears as a legal term of art and judicial discussion of common law development in the United States, the property rights of Native Americans. I repeat, most frequently, the phrase time immemorial appears as a legal term of art and judicial discussion of common law development in the United States, the property rights of Native Americans. What is the legal term of art? Jargon or technical language is specialized terminology associated with a particular field or area of activity. Jargon is normally employed in particular communicative context and may not be well understood outside that context. The context is usually a particular occupation that is a certain trade, profession, vernacular, or academic field by an in-group can have jargon. The key characteristic of the distinguishing jargon from the rest of the language is a specialized vocabulary, which includes terms and definitions of words that are unique to the context, and a term used in a narrow more or exact sense than when used in the colloquial language. Colloquial, if I'm not wrong, please forgive me. This can lead out groups to misunderstand communication attempts. Jargon is sometimes understood as a form of technical slang, then distinguished from official terminology used in particular fields of activity. Did y'all hear that? So when you're dealing with legal term of art, that's nothing more than legal jargon. Okay? Contrast to the true meaning of in law. All right? Let's look at the true meaning. Time immemorial is frequently used to describe the time required for a custom to mature into a common law. Medieval historian Richard Barber described that is as the watershed between a primary oral culture and a world where writing was paramount. Common law is a body of law identified by judges in judicial proceedings rather than created by a legislature. Judges determine the common law by pinpointing the legal principles consistently reiterated in previous legal cases over a long period of time. In English law, time immemorial ends and legal memory begins at 1189, the end of the reign of King Henry II. who is associated with the invention of the English common law. Because common law is found to have non-historical immemorial event, it is distinct from law created by a monarch or legislative bodies on a fixed date. In English law, time immemorial has been used to specify the time required to establish a prescriptive right. A prescriptive right is a right of easement, the right to use property that don't belong to you. Did you hear me? That don't belong to that or don't apparently or assume to don't belong to you. Okay? All right. Time immemorial. So let's go back to the article. Once again, whereas by virtue of the said partition made by the heirs of said Adam and Eve, all that certain tract of land called and known on the general plan of the said earth by the name of America, parcel of said large tract was allotted and set over unto certain of the heirs aforesaid to them and to their heirs general and fee simple, who entered into the same and became thereof seized as aforesaid, and their demesne as of fee and people the same allotted lands and severalty, and made partition thereof to and among their descendants. And whereas afterward, now deemed in time immemorial. Okay, so if you're dealing with from under the common law, then you're really dealing with time immemorial. You're going back to Henry II, son of Godfrey, the fifth kind of man Jew, son of folk, ruler of Jerusalem. Okay, if you're looking at it from a legal art of legal jargon, then you're dealing with it from the standpoint of the six nations that make up North America. Okay, the six nations that make up North America. That's qualifying. And whereas afterward, now deemed in time immemorial, a certain united people called the Six Nations of North America, heirs and descendants of the said grantees of America, became seized, and for a long time, whereof of the memory of man, whether not to the contrary, have been seized in their demesne as of fee, and in certain tracts of country and land in the North Division of America, called and known at present on the general plan of the said North Division by the name of Pennsylvania. Did you hear that? By the name of Pennsylvania. All right. So they're making the distinction between those going back to time immemorial, where from the legal perspective, based off case law, you know what I'm saying? We know that everything is subject to the common law. All right. And the common law was founded by Henry II. All right. Everything that with the common law and the law governing the land is governed by the Constitution of England, which we know is the Magna Carta. And the Magna Carta is predated by the Clarendon Constitution, and the Clarendon Constitution is governed by the Clarendon Act, which deals with the size courts, where judicial proceedings are held to validate one's right to an interest in the conveyance of an estate, whether it's by Livery of Seisin, or which is Livery of Deed, or Livery of Law. All right, which is the question that we're bringing before the courts today. All right, today, because those who claim to be holding it based off the legal jargon of the legal, what they call legal maxims of art, or how they use it, is limited to the Native Americans who claim to have an interest of in the state here in North America based off the compact made between William Penn and the Native Americans here. Okay, the Native Americans here. Okay. Whereas the said United Nations being so thereof seized afterward, to wit, in the year of our Lord 1768, by their certain deed of feasting with Livery of Seisin, did grant, bargain, sell, release, and fief alien, hear the word alienate, and confirm unto Thomas Penn and Richard Penn, otherwise called the proprietors of Pennsylvania, among other things, the county called Buffalo Valley, situated on the south side of the west branch of the river of Susquehanna, parcel of the said country called Pennsylvania, to hold to them the said proprietors, their heirs, assignees forever, and their damsel as a fee, as by the same treatment for more fully appears, which last mentioned fact of country was afterward within other tracts of country by the shared property. All right, as we can see. They talk about uh, two forms of conveyance, right? One to the descendants going back from time immemorial, from the perception of the legal term of art, then of the legal jargon in reference to Native Americans' possession of land or those belonging to the Anglo-Saxons. All right, we're gonna go right back here. Time immemorial, right? It all is based upon right here. How are you going to make your connection to this land mass here in what we call North America, right? How are you going to make that connection? Well, we see William Penn made his connection based upon his receiving it from the Native Americans who were not the owners of the land. Okay, because that agreement was made based off a legal term of art based upon the concept of time immemorial. Okay, not rooted in the common law. All right, we know the Native Americans didn't have a legal system made up over here because we know that the American legal system was based upon the common law. Okay, the common law of England. Another source. Biblical and medieval covenant in New York Old Testament play, right? Or the mysteries concerning Adam and Eve, right? The name of this is called From Lee's Study in English. Ogar Horner, Biblical and Medieval Covenants in York Old Testament. All right. York Old Testament. University of Leeds. I'm gonna try to read this as much as I can. Some of the terminology I might slip on it, so if I do, please forgive me. All right. The act of homage and the words used in oaths of piety to bear faith to the Lord in life and limb and body, goods, and earthly honor have nothing to do with the Genesis description of Adam's introduction into paradise. They do not reflect the dialogue in the play text when Adam is given lordship on the earth and we return for the love and obedience and the actions of the homage ceremony could invest the presentation of paradise to Adam and Eve and the play with a recognizable solemn ritual, right? Fortunately, there is no support in English iconography for showing the dramatic Adam and Eve in the comparable act of reverence to that of Homer. Artists chose biblical subjects and events for the doctrinal illustration of prefigurations, with the creation of Eve a more popular subject than the creation of Adam, probably because the representation of her being drawn from the side of Adam is associated with the idea of the church issuing from the wounded side of Christ on the cross. One purely aesthetic grounds, Eve's creation is more visually exciting than the image of Adam being formed from the dust of the earth, unless, of course, the artist has the genius of Michelangelo's, whose early 16th version of God's creating Adam epitomizes the divine energy of the act of creation. His creation of Eve, also in the Sistine Chapel, is equally individual, showing her in a true homage posture, kneeling with her hands together, gazing up to God. The homage ceremony was much the same throughout Europe. Michelangelo may well have had the pictorial representation of homage in mind. It is also the position of prayer used on the continent before it was adopted in England, and known as a Frankish custom, and believed to have been derived from the Teutonic feudal ceremony, since it was known as a judicial form of homage long before it was adopted as a devotional attitude. Looking for literary comparisons. It is clear that the style and content of the creation plays and the other extant mystery cycles have long in common with the York play. All right, long in common with the York play. Line 81 to 128 of the Chester creation and fall are generally scripturally faithful to Genesis 1, 26 to 31, and 2, 7 to 9, 15 to 25, including Adam's material comments, and with no apparent authorial bias. In the end town creation, there is a very brief scene, line 97 to 143, consisting of a monologue by God summarizing Genesis 1, 26 verses 30, 26 to 31, chapter 2, 1 verses to 3. Online from 2, 23rd, this is now bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh, is inserted into the text out of the biblical order, spoken by God, not Adam, and changed in the play to flesh of thy flesh and bone of thy bone. Some novel or horticultural details are added to the text, whoever can pronounce that. God takes Adam to paradise, and Adam and Eve offer their thanks to God, who is not present at the beginning of the next play. The fall of man in contrast to grace and passage in town and the Chester seems to be dramatically less important than the preceding fall of Lucifer and the succeeding temptation and fall of man seems. Presumably also dealt with in the missing 12 pages of tonally. All right, so these are all manuscripts that tell the story dealing with the Old Testament. Okay, when you get time, you can read them on your own, but for the sake of time, we won't have time to do that. All right, I'm going to get to a particular point in reference. Seisin. Like the other two cycles, tonally creation episodes do not have some resemblance to the York plague. Adam and Eve are given two joint dominions on earth. Ye boast to grenade that here is part sub. I don't know what that means. And only tonally plays requires love in return for paradise, although it is the cherub, not God, who instructs Adam to loose my Lord in all thy thought. God tells Adam, this I make thy warning place. Forgive me if I pronounce it wrong. And I season it therein. Season, the possessor of land and the basis of the entire system of medieval land law, was acquired by a tenant when he did homage to the Lord. See description of legal bonds in the homes above. If Tonlich, playwright, was thinking in terms of a legally valid gift of land, he would know that the parties had to make a physical entry on the land, as they do in the play, according to the script, which appropriates words expressing the extent of the interest in land and the service to be rendered, such as spoken by God in the cherubs in line 189 and line 209. All right, so all this is concerned in what they call the mysteries of Adam. Okay, the mysteries of Adam, which go to what we call the mystery plays of Adam and Eve. All right, the mystery plays of Adam and Eve, or what they call the York mystery plays. All right. So only reason why I brought that up is regards to what was said in the Oscar Knoxon book in regards to the fee simple estates that were turned into fee simple, going back to the creation of Adam and Eve, concerning a deed going back to the creation of the Adam and Eve. All right, which we'll go back through it. Go through again. Hey, I repeat. And Lord, what we just read in regards to Adam and Eve's story, all right, that is irrelevant. All right. I just brought that for an analysis, all right, for us to look at it as an analysis in regards to what we read in the Oscar Knotson, which was a book in regards to this a contract on indenture between two parties, Clara Helena Ellen Hoopson and Flower Rome, which was an attorney in regards to territory that they claimed under the process of what we call Livery of Seisin, okay, or Seisin, okay, Livery of Seisin or Seisin. Let's review that again. Look at Livery of Seisin, not just look at Seisin. Because Livery of Seisin deals with delivery of Seisin. So what is Seisin? Right? What is Seisin? Seisin. No to the legal possession of a feudal fiefdom or fee. That is to say, an estate and land. It was used in the form of the son and a heir of X has obtained season of his inheritance, and thus is effectively a term concerning with the conveyancing in the feudal era. This person holding such a state is said to be seized of it, a phrase which commonly appears in Inquisition post mortem. The juror finds that X did seize of the manor of. The monarch alone held all the land of England by his allotted or right, and all his subjects were merely his tenant under various contracts of feudal tenure. Did everyone hear that? Understand that? So you can't look at this in an abstract way. You have to look at it in a concrete way, all right? The way I'm giving it to you, all right? Because if you don't, you'll never have an interest in the state, right? You'll never have an interest in the state. Two ways, seizing in law and seizing in deed. William Penn made it based off the Turk and Church ceremony by seizing of deed, all right, and recorded it. We're going to see that the way it originally was done was based upon livery of seizing of law, which is based upon going into the territory and looking upon it and it being conveyed that way, and then you then going on and enter into your possession, such as the conveyance granted by Creator to Adam and Eve. That was done by seizing of law, okay? Seizing of law, called livery of Seisin, okay? Not seizing of a deed, all right? Seizing of a deed is the way William Penn did it, and all those who came and descended from William Penn. That's just how they did it, as we go back to this article, Oscar Knoxon, right? This is how they did it. This indenture made on the 9th day of October in the year of our Lord, 1793, between Clara Helena and Ellen Huxon and the town of Louisburg or Clovisburg, whatever you want to call it, in the town of Buffalo and the county of Northumberland and the Commonwealth, Pennsylvania, widow and of one part of Flavel, Rome, all right, of the town of Sunbury, and in the county of Commonwealth aforesaid Esquire of the other part. All right, we know Sunbury was the capital city, or rather village of the what would they call the Shemelkin were, and that was in what they call the West Bank, the West Branch of Susquehanna River, where the Native Americans actually lived. And we know that territory, which they call West Branch of Susquehanna River, was a territory that was inhabited by people long before the pre-Clovis era, all right, which were the Anglo-Saxon Berbers, which going back to the territory or the territorial that was conveyed on the Livery of Seisin, going back to Adam and Eve, all right? There's no Adam and Eve stories where the records was kept by Moses were incorporated in the Dome book by Alfred the Great, all right? The Dome book by Alfred the Great. We already seen it. Dome book of Alfred the Great. So let's read this again. I know y'all are tired of me reading it over, but hey, I got to do it. So these two individuals, all right, in 1798, what was that, 1798? 1793, okay? 1793. Received a conveyance of property, all right, based off the Livery of Seisin ceremony, all right? We see it right here. And they connected that Livery of Seisin ceremony to a creator of the earth, all right, who is not present on earth when he conveyed it to them, okay? And these people we talking about ain't Adam and Eve, all right? The two individuals mentioned up on the page for this one is not Adam and Eve, are they? No, they're not, all right? But somehow, and apparently they received some type of way to receive land based off the Livery of Seisin tradition and custom that was based upon the Anglo-Saxon Berber custom going back to Asherton, okay? Because the ceremony mentions his name, Asherton, all right? It didn't mention Adam and Eve, it mentioned Asherton. But they're trying to make a conveyance based off the Livery of Seisin that mentioned Asherton and connect that mess back to Adam and Eve and the creator, okay? Something wrong with that picture, okay? Something wrong with that picture. So let's read it again in its entirety. Whereas the creator of the earth by parole and Livery of Seisin did enfeoff the parents of mankind, to which Adam and Eve, of all that certain tract of land, called and known in the planetary system by the name of earth. So that means that whoever conveyed this land to Adam and Eve was not on earth, but he was the creator and speaking to them about this inheritance on earth, called the planetary name Earth, going by the planetary name of Earth. And they chose a particular place on that earth called Pennsylvania. Go figure. Okay? They chose a particular spot on this earth called Pennsylvania to make a connection to land that was given to them by the Creator, going back to Adam and Eve, with the ceremony called Livery of Seisin, which the ceremony conveyance mentions Anglo-Saxon king by the name of Ashton, the son of Alfred the Great. Okay? How is that possible? Right? Whereas the creator of the earth, by parole of Livery of Seisin, did enfeoff the parents of mankind to wit Adam and Eve of all that certain tract of land called and known as the planetary system by the name of the earth. All right, by the name of the earth. All right, whatever name you want to call it, Eric, Art, whatever you choose to name it, they're talking about the earth. And the earth is allotted. It didn't say one particular spot. It said the earth, and the earth is allotted. And you know it's allotted because it's owned by the creator, and those who were entrusted with it was Adam and Eve. And the process that the creator chose to convey the land to Adam and Eve was Livery of Seisin. So that means that the descendant of Adam and Eve was a descendant of the Anglo-Saxon Berber, starting with Ashton, because his name was actually chosen in the actual ceremony itself. Okay? I don't care if you think I'm making this up. I'm making something that was make believe true. All right. Together with all in singular, the advantages, woods, waters, water courses, easement. We know what easement meant. A right to use something that don't belong to you. All right. Liberties, privileges, and all other appurtenances whatsoever, thereunto belonging or in any right appertaining to have and to hold to them the said Adam and Eve. He mentions it by name. All right. Adam and Eve and their heirs of their bodies lawfully to be begotten in detail, general, forever, as by the said statement recorded by Moses in the first chapter of the book of his record, commonly called Genesis. All right. Genesis. All right. More fully and at large appears on reference beings thereunto had. No one can argue that Adam and Eve descendant was Moses from the abstract story, but yet Adam and Eve and Moses are using a conveyance of process for conveying land by way of Livery of Seisin and enfeoff. Okay? Livery of Seisin and enfeoff. All right? That's one form of conveyance. That's the proper form of conveyance. That's the original form of conveyance from a grantor to a grantee, from a transferor to a transferee. All right? And that too one it should create here on earth. All right? Right? And then it said, and whereas that said Adam and Eve died, seized of the premises aforesaid in fetail general. Okay? They were seized of that property in fetail general, leaving issue, all right? Leaving a issue of who were inherited based upon fetail through Livery of Seisin, the estate granted by God to Adam and Eve concerning the whole earth. Concerning the whole earth. Because you write your book, set your timeline. This book is concerning Native Americans narrating the story in the cave, all right? In a cave called the demon of, what's it called? Let's see. Demon, the demon den, all right? Right here. We're reading from the Oscar Knoxon book, which is a book concerning what was called the West Branch of the South Carolina River. All right. And it says committee is also sometimes referred by the Iroquois name Oskanatson, which was, according to Count Zinzendorf, the name of the Iroquois gave to a large cave and a rocky hill in the wilderness. That's no coincidence that they're talking about a hill in the wilderness, a rocky cave, okay? From its surrounding country in the west branch of the Susquehanna are called Oskanatson, all right? I.e., the demon den, for here the evil spirits say that Indians have their seat and hold their rebels, all right? Hold their rebels. What does rebel mean? What are rebels? Rebels is a contemporary series of American seasonal stage performances incorporating singing, dancing, recitals, theatrics, loosely organized around a central theme or narrative. The folk tradition-based performances started in 1957, which was started in 1971, and now occur in multiple cities around the United States. Okay, so we know rebels have to deal with theatrics. Okay, theatrics. Let's see. Master of rebels. I see this. The rebels often had an influential role in the history of the English stage. Among the expenses of the royal wardrobe was fine provisions made from tunicae and visor, shirts and hats. In 1347, the Christmas Udi plays of Edward III during the reign of Henry VII, payments are also recorded for various forms of court rebels and became regular apparently to appoint a special functionary called Master of the Rebel to supply to superintend the royal festivals, quite distinct from the law of misrule. So we know that rebels had to deal with, like I said, a show, a theatrics, okay? Theatrics. And revel. Enjoy oneself in lively and noisy way, especially with drinking and dancing, okay? That's what it means. Go back to the book now. And whereas said Adam and Eve died, seeds of premise aforesaid and female general, leaving issue, heirs of their bodies to rich sons and daughters who enter into the same premises and became thereof seeds as tenants, in common by virtue of the donation aforesaid, and multiplied their seed upon the earth. And whereas in process of time, the heirs of said Adam and Eve, having become very numerous and finding it very inconvenient to remain in common as aforesaid, bethought themselves to make partitions of the lands and tenements aforesaid to the amongst themselves, and they did according to make such partition. Listen close. And whereas by virtue of the said partition made by the heirs of the said Adam and Eve, all that certain tract of land called and known on the general plan of the said earth by the name of America. All right, by the name of America. Parcel of the said large tract was allotted and set over unto certain of the heirs, aforesaid to them and to their heirs general and fee simple, who entered into the same, became thereof seized as aforesaid of their demesne as of a fee. And people the same allotted land and severalty, and made partition thereof to and among their descendants, and whereas afterward now deemed time immemorial. So we know that the land switched from fee simple, intel to fee simple in time immemorial by way of what we call common recovery. All right. That's why with the first issue, Queen and Pretorius, I was to call warrant to show just cause how this Livery of Seisin as being done today, based upon how we see it orchestrated by these two individuals here in what we call Pennsylvania. And we know that the way when they got the ceremony practiced to convey the land came from William Penn. And William Penn didn't have the right to practice ceremony because he did not descend from the Anglo-Saxon Berbers as Atherton did. And apparently Atherton was descendant of grandchild of William of Alfred the Great, who created what they call Doom's Book, which incorporated the Mosaic Code called the Book of Moses that you found in Genesis, in which the fee simple estate, the fee tell estate was supposed to be conveyed based off the Livery of Seisin process, which we see here orchestrated in this book right here. Right? Right here. Right here. Fee simple versus intel. All right. Fee tell. Adam and Eve's estate was fee tell. All right. As confirmed by the books of Moses and the book of Genesis, as confirmed in the 18th century by these two individuals who claim to be descendants of Adam and Eve. But the conveyance is not in fee tell, the conveyance is in fee simple. It's in fee simple, right? Because it's right here. This is the intel. Now they're going to move to fee simple based off the legal jargon or the legal jargon of the perception of common law. Time immemorial. All right. So this is how they do it, based upon this perception. Then with the rights of Native Americans, all right, Native Americans or Native Indians, which is fee simple, all right, fee simple estates. All right here. Fee simple. Let's go to fee tell in closing. Right? Talking about Livery of Seisin of Intel land or fee simple land. We know fee simple Livery of Seisin was done based off the deed that was based upon the recorder of deed that was created when Charles II abolished Livery of Seisin and then created the statute of frauds, which stated that all deed contracts now must be in writing. Okay. Prior to that, abolition of the 10-Year Abolition Act and the statute of frauds and the abolition of Livery of Seisin, it was in practice dealing with fee tell estates, which are intel estates. All right. And English common law, fee tell or intel law is a form of trust established by a deed or settlement that restricts the sale of inheritance of estate and real property and prevents that property from being sold, divided by will, or otherwise alienated by the tenants in possession, and instead causes it to pass automatically by operation of law. Did you hear that? Operation of law. If you don't understand that, then that means you have a hard time comprehending common sense. All right? The term fee tell are from medieval Latin, fidum talliatum, which means cut short or fee. Fee tell deeds are in contrast to fee simple. You hear that? They're not the same. Fee tell deeds are in contrast to fee simple deeds, possessors of which have an unrestricted title to the property and are empowered to bequest or dispose of it as they wish, although it may be subject to the allotted title of the monarch or a government body which has the power of eminent domain. Okay? But we see that those who situate themselves in Pennsylvania use the power of eminent domain. All right? William Penn, Charles II, the House of Stuarts, the House of Tudors, all use the power of eminent domain, which is called prescription of sovereignty, which is called um, uh, acquisition of sovereignty by taking land that don't belong to you by way of it exceeding or being abandoned because they assume don't know heirs exist. All right, and that's called interstate. All right, when heirs don't exist, then the land can be alienated. Okay, if heirs do exist, then the land cannot be alienated. Okay, we must understand that. So as we can see, based upon what was told um, in this book right here. Close to. Says here, God tells Adam, "This I make thee uh, wounding place, and I season the therein." 180, verse 180, 180, 182. This denotes to season. The possession of land and the basic of the entire system of medieval land law was acquired by a tenant when he did homage to the Lord. See the description of legal bonds and homage above. Okay, so this season that they're talking about Adam and Eve is associated with livery of season. Okay, livery of season, the delivery of possession. All right, that brings me here. This is told through what they call the York mystery. All right, the York mystery play. Go here. The York mystery plays, more properly the York Corpus Christi, are Middle English cycles of 48 mystery plays or passages covering sacred history from the creation to the last judgment. All right? As they said, the plays are one of the four virtually complete survey English mystery plays cycles, along with the Chester mystery plays, the Tony Wakefield plays, and the End Town plays, which we just read about. Okay? But if those want to do a further investigation, you can go right here on Wikipedia and investigate that. But they all are considered mystery plays concerning creation to the last judgment. Okay? Creation to the last judgment. Okay? What are the mystery plays? In closing, mystery plays and miracle plays, they are distinguished as two different forms, although the term are often used interchangeably, are among the earliest formally developed plays in medieval Europe. Medieval mystery plays focus on the representation of biblical stories in churches as tableaux with accompanying antiphonal songs, just like the movies when you see. They told of the they told of subjects such as the creation, Adam and Eve, the murder of Abel, the last judgment. Often they were performed together in cycles which could last for days. The name derived from mystery used in its sense of miracle, but an occasionally quoted derivation is from ministerium, meaning craft. And so the mysteries are plays performed by craft guild. All right? Craft guild. Let's go to it. Origin. As early as the 5th century, living tablets were introduced into sacred services. The plays originated as simple tropes, verbal embellishments of literal texts, and slowly became more elaborate. At early periods, chants from the services of the days were added to the prostate dialogue. As these lyrical plays increased in popularity, the vernacular forms emerged in traveling companies of actors and theatrical products became common in the later Middle Ages, just like the one you see in Thor. All right. All the folklore plays, The Dawn and the Thistle, Shakespeare, same. The Queen, the Quinquitoris is the best known early form of the mystery plays, all right? It is a schematic dialogue between the angel at the tomb of Christ and the woman who are seeking his dead body, okay? One of the earliest forms. Early forms of the responsorium, early forms of the responsorium were later elaborated with dialogue and dramatic action. Early performances were given in Latin and were preceded by vernacular prologues spoken by a herald who gave synopsis of the event. The writers and directors of the early plays were probably monks or clerics, okay? Monks or clerics. What is the Quinquitoris? Latin question Quinquitoris, whom do you seek, refers to 4 lines of the medieval Eastern liturgy that later formed the kernel of the large body of the medieval lyrical drama, which is also known as the Vistiano Sepulchre, Visit to the Tomb. It was introduced into liturgy in the 10th century as a new genre of liturgical ceremony. Translation, I'm not going to say it in the language. I'm going to just say it in the English language. Question by the angel: whom do you seek in a sepulchre, O followers of Christ? Answered by the Marys: Jesus of Nazareth, the crucified, or heavenly one. The angels: he is not here. He is risen, just as he foretold. Go announce he is risen from the sepulchre. Okay? So we know English is another word for angel or angel, and the angel means messenger. Okay? And it's based upon the first plays of the mystery plays concerning the York mystery. Okay? All right. And this originated from what we call the Regalius Concordia. Grim Corritus originated from the Regalia Concordance, which I'll close on. Okay? I'll close on this. The Regalius Concordia was the most important document of the English Benedictine reform sanctioned by the Council of Winchester about 973. We know the English Benedictine reform in 959 is where you get Westminster Abbey from, all right, which is a school created for a black school of black monks, okay? It's called the Benedictine Monastery, following the teaching of Saint Benedict of Nursia, all right, to the English Benedictine Reformation that was took its form under Alfred the Great, Edward the Elder, Atherton, and came to its height with King Edgar the Peaceful, which is our Jesus Christ, okay? Our Jesus Christ. And the Grim Quinquitoris originated from the Regalius Concordia to the English Benedictine Reform. The document was compiled by Ethelwood, who was aided by monks from the Fleury and Ghent Abbey. A synodal council was summoned to construct a common rule of life to be observed by all monasteries. The document served as a rule for how the monastic life to be performed, including monastic rituals like the procedures for the election of bishops that differ from continental practices, and which led to the predominantly monastic episcopacy. Content. One of the large topics found within the manuscript is the foreword of the Harmony of the Rule, which is meant to apply to the monks and nuns of the entire nation that was ruled under King Edgar. This section of the document proclaimed that every religious house in the kingdom was to follow the rule prescribed in the rest of the manuscript. This included how the monastic office was to be performed. Office included vigils, laws, and prayers, and is the practice that was established in the 5th century. The prescription for the monastic office or specific, for example, it includes the specific liturgical songs to be performed during the mandated labor hours that were required of the monks. The portion of the manuscript dedicated to the rites of the Holy Week and Easter are the most detailed. This is where the introduction of the quem curatus is introduced and is now credited to be the introduction of theatrical rituals. The regalas also created the specific pattern in order that bells should be rung for masses and holidays. All right. So there you see the origin and the reason why uh, the York mysteries or the mysteries, going back to uh, uh, the theatrical plays that we see portrayed today. All right. They were based upon that which existed from time immemorial, based upon the abstract and the concrete story, based upon the land promised from the Creator to His Son. Okay, Jesus Christ, who were redeemed as a result of what happened to Adam and Eve's children when the land was taken from them under what we call fee simple, when it was supposed to be an entail or fee tail. Okay, so with that, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. And I had you here for a while. I know I said a lot today, but that's okay. All right. As you watch the video, you will really see the connection that I made between what we call Pennsylvania, which was a Commonwealth state, all right, under one parliament by Charles II, who unlawfully gave out deeds which were presumably conveyed by way of livery of deeds. You know, livery is synonymous with delivery, okay? But those conveyances were unlawful, as we see in the book called the Oskanachin, or what we call the West Branch of the Susquehanna River, in regard to the what we call the what we call the what they called? They were called the fair play men who established the fair play system, which was nothing more than those based upon squatting. All right, squatting on land that don't belong to them. All right, squatting on land that don't belong to them. But as you can see, my ancestor, my ancestor, I'm going to show you. My grandfather was truly native to these lands. All right, but he didn't have a Native American name. His last name was Jefferson. Okay, as you can see here, the oldest Jefferson and Ruth Jefferson. Okay, that's my family. With that, love you all. I know it might be a lot to intake. I know I went over what we talked about a couple of times, but that was done just to reassure you what it is that you're reading and not to overlook what you're reading, because there's so much to be read in what you're reading, but we just don't look for it. Okay? But we can see in the book called the Oskanachin, or what we call the West Branch of the Susquehanna River, in regards to the Shamokin village that was established in Sunbury, which is in Northumberland County, which has actually come from Northumberland, England, named after Northumberland, England. And as we know that in that territory, there was a pre-culture existing there prior to pre-Clovis culture, okay? And that culture that existed there was those descendants of those who wanted to misnomer to Adam and Eve, but we know there were no other than Anglo-Saxon rebels. With that, I digress, and greet you as I meet you in peace.